Your vision is flawed.
I see the Padawan needs one last lesson.
The Clone Wars is a show that holds a special place in a lot of people's hearts. Most consider it to be peak Star Wars content, Star Wars at its absolute best. It fills the gap between episode 2 and 3 and does the one job that a show like this sets out to do. It adds context. It pays tribute to that one line from A New Hope that created the entire prequel trilogy. It brings a war that began in Attack of the Clones to life. The Clone Wars creates a bigger and better understanding of the events leading up to the Empire's rise. It adds to the lore and characters, yet takes nothing away from them. In fact, the show is more of a love letter to the entire franchise. There is one arc that stood out to me. One arc that really blew my mind away at how beautiful 20-minute animations made for children could be. The amount of depth and context that these episodes contributed to the overall story is sublime.
You're all going to burn! We're all going to die! You don't know what you're doing!
It changed the way I viewed certain characters and events in such an intelligently magnificent style. The arc I'm talking about is, of course, the finale. The final arc follows Ahsoka Tano, Anakin Skywalker's apprentice, Rex, captain of the 501st Legion, Anakin's personal platoon, and finally Darth Maul, Emperor Palpatine's former apprentice. Right from the get-go, you realize that you are in for an experience, as the production value is nothing like the previous episodes. The arc opens with the original opening song from the movies, not the show. Scenes are allowed to breathe, and as the episodes go on, you begin to realize something. The final 4 episodes are happening concurrently alongside Revenge of the Sith. There are cues throughout the episodes that let you know when exactly the events of this arc are taking place within the timeline. It adds to the heavy amount of tension that Revenge of the Sith already provides and creates even more emotional weight for the characters we're watching. These subtle reminders devastatingly represent the torture that is the ticking time bomb of Order 66.
Because Count Dooku is dead. Anakin killed him while rescuing the Chancellor.
As viewers, we all know what's to come, yet we see our main character, Ahsoka, fight against the truth, the decisions she could have made to help the lost soul of her master and brother, Anakin Skywalker. And the more you watch, the more you realize that this arc is structurally designed to parallel Revenge of the Sith. It starts off optimistic and slowly gets darker and darker until there is nothing left. Ahsoka is our Anakin. Darth Maul is rightfully the Darth Sidious of the episodes, and Captain Rex is our good side representation of Obi-Wan. Ahsoka is just as conflicted as Anakin is. She, as her master did, felt betrayed and distant from the one thing that was supposed to make her feel comfort, the Jedi Order.
I'm sorry, citizen. These matters are for the Council to discuss.
There comes a moment where the events of Revenge of the Sith are foretold by Darth Maul, and she, like her master, is given the opportunity to join the dark side. She, like her master, actually accepts Darth Maul's offer, but immediately changes her mind once she realizes how dark and twisted Maul as a master would be. This begs the question, what if Anakin did not turn? What if Palpatine stood trial? Well, we sort of get to see how Anakin would behave if he didn't slice off Mace Windu's arm through Ahsoka. You see, Ahsoka embodies the conflictions of her former master. A good example of this is when she is arguing with Obi-Wan over Anakin's new assignment to spy on the Chancellor. This argument parallels the exact same argument that Anakin and Obi-Wan have in Revenge of the Sith. She knows Anakin will be displeased, and thus, so is Ahsoka. But what the Clone Wars does differently to Revenge of the Sith is give us more context to the character's feelings, and by doing so, increases the emotional weight. We learn in this exact same moment that Obi-Wan rightfully disagrees with the Council's interference. Like his own master, he is losing faith in the Jedi Council. These 4 episodes subtly demonstrate the effect teachers have on their students years after they have moved on. Maul is utterly terrified of his master at any given hint of Palpatine's involvement, and they haven't been in contact for years. Obi-Wan begins to mirror his old master Qui-Gon and slowly mature into the old hermit he becomes in episode 4. Do you think this handsome iteration of Obi-Wan would slice a man's arm off in a bar just for bothering one of his friends? Not at all. It's at this moment that he begins to question the Jedi Council and find his own meaning in the Force. Similar to how Qui-Gon was more of a lone wolf, trusting in the Force rather than the Jedi Council. Ahsoka has Anakin's passion. She lets her emotions guide her. You can visibly see the dread develop on her face as the episodes go on. Whereas with Obi-Wan, he bottles up all of his emotions until he lets them all out during his final moments on Mustafar. Sadly, no matter which way you look at it, all the characters except for one end up in exile anyway, that being Emperor Palpatine. The music has been ominously tense, and the pacing has been slower up until this very moment. The silence builds up the anticipation of the dreariness that's about to ensue. The Star Wars universe begins to feel more alive as you witness another victim of Order 66, this time with a tighter bond to their platoon.
Find him. Vibes. Find him!
In the movies, the clones are nothing but cannon fodder, background characters without a voice. The Clone Wars rectifies that. It gives the clones distinguishable personalities, so when the moment comes for the clones to turn, we feel even sadder. Ahsoka and Rex have been fighting side by side for years. You can see and feel the turmoil on Rex as he unwillfully turns on his good friend. He has become the one thing that he's been fighting against this entire time, a mindless droid dictated by the commands of his superiors. This is an extraordinary example of intertextual nostalgia being used to elevate a story without feeling cheap. The writers did not need to resort to showing us an older character or object to get our emotions high, because the story is compelling enough. Viewers are naturally invested into these characters because of the amount of time spent developing these characters. The constant nods to the movies, the attention to detail, it all makes the characters and world feel alive. The events that take place matter. We see how it affects everybody. Order 66 was such a devastating moment for everybody but the winner, Palpatine. Throughout the episodes, Maul acts as a constant reminder of what's to come. He has the same fear that the viewers do. He anticipates and foreshadows the danger. He has experienced Palpatine's wrath firsthand, and for such a villainous character to be so fearful is terrifying for the viewers.
There is no mercy.
It is not until the very aftermath of it all that the events that just played out really sink in. The Clone Wars are finally over. Not only for the Jedi, but for the Republic and democracy too. The ominously tense music, along with the absence of dialogue, it all feels surreal. It begs the characters to question if any of this is real. Did this really just happen? Maul was right. He had foreseen everything that happened, and Ahsoka's perspective on good versus evil is conflicted. You can see and feel the PTSD in Ahsoka's eyes as she spends her last moments of the Clone Wars burying her fallen brothers who gave all of their might to take Ahsoka down with them. That's the beauty of the Clone Wars. It earns its emotional moments. They don't need to show us Anakin's lightsaber or bring back an older character for a cheap nostalgia trip. The Clone Wars tells a compelling story. It humanizes characters that otherwise were nothing but background characters. From the Jedi to the clone troopers, it makes the events that play out even sadder. It's like a lullaby for the clones. Almost every one of them died thinking they were defending the Republic, thinking that they mattered. But in reality, they were just innocent pawns in Sidious's game. They went through hell for the Republic only to become instruments of its downfall. But never once did they fall short in their duty. The Republic could not have asked for better soldiers. At last, their suffering is over, and the clones can finally rest, only for another's everlasting trauma to begin. You barely get to see him, but this arc is beautifully still about Anakin. The main character of this story was off screen the entire time. He is on the search for a sign that the last relic from his previous life has survived the crash. Emptiness. All he finds is the cracked helmet of a long-gone clone trooper laying in a snowdrift. A clone trooper that he once commanded, fearlessly leading him and his brothers into battle after battle. There is a lightsaber, half buried in the snow before the helmet. The man who threw it all away because he cared too much, picked up the lightsaber, igniting it. It burns with a blue fire. It was Ahsoka's. The very same lightsaber he gave her before he rushed off to save the Chancellor. In his mind, Ahsoka is dead. He grips the hilt tightly, retracts the blade, and without uttering a word, turns and walks back the same way he had come. A broken man, trapped inside a coffin, walking away from his shattered past, his comrades, his democracy, and his apprentice, Ahsoka. As he fades off into the distance, so does the Clone Wars. Wow, I could not talk about this scene without describing it to you, and honestly, I did not even do the show justice. Go and watch it for yourselves if you haven't already. It took the writers 7 seasons to get to this moment. It was earned. And because it was earned, it was instantaneously memorable. No cheap gimmicks, just pure storytelling. This scene changes the way we view Darth Vader. It's one of the most vulnerable moments we see from him. You can vaguely see his blue eyes as Anakin slithers back to life. The somberness of it all. It makes us feel even more empathy for a character that has done awful things. When you now watch the original trilogy, you will see the Clone Wars rendition of Anakin. Distraught and trapped. A man who threw everything away because he cared too much. The Clone Wars is truly a show I recommend watching, even if you are not a fan of Star Wars. There is a reason that the final arc of the Clone Wars is placed so highly on the IMDb top episode list. It's a show that really captures the essence of what Star Wars is all about. Family. If you enjoyed watching this video as much as I did making it, then you'll enjoy my other videos too, so definitely go and check those out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.